Welcome back to Terror by the Bay. I'm David. It's Friday, May 26th. This reading is going to be on Ukraine in the spring offensive as we start getting closer to summer. Is the Ukrainian offensive, their counterattack against Russia, is that happening soon? And if it does, will they be able to rout the Russians to the point where Russia sues for peace or is actually removed from the country? Maybe even Crimea. It's a question from Ron Brock on my community page. So let's look at what's the current status of the war in Ukraine for information purposes only. Okay, so offers. I think what's happening here with the Four of Cups is trying to decide when to start. You know, you have different windows with which to go through, but timing is everything because you basically get one chance at this. So you need to make sure you've got everything you need in place. And they could have started earlier, but maybe they wouldn't have had the tanks that Great Britain, Germany, and the U.S. provided, or the air support. Hear tale that they're going to be getting some F-16s. You need to have all your equipment, all your personnel trained, the weather cooperating in order to perform this offensive. So I think they've been sitting around patiently waiting for the right time, the right offer to come through. What's that crossed with? The fact that their country's been invaded and they feel like they're stuck. It just doesn't feel like the right time is ever going to come. All right. In the past, you've got the fighting, the squabbling that's been going on. They've been doing a remarkable job. The Ukrainians have been doing an incredible job of maintaining their own against Russia. And they have blackened Russia's eye big time. Nobody thought that Ukraine would last as long as they did. Current situation. Logistics. When is this going to begin? I'm sure the citizenry really want this done, but this is also a nightmare for the Russians too, because they don't know when it's coming, and it's stressing the heck out of them. The not knowing is worse than the knowing, because every tree branch, every twig that snaps, every sudden noise that you hear, is that the offensive? Is that the offensive? So it's kind of like, the music building up in a thriller movie. Is the killer right around that door? But again, to me, logistics is also a nightmare. You got to make sure your logistics are in place so that when you begin this, everybody is supplied. Lesson to be learned is the government. The Ukrainian government's going to make this call. I know the military leaders, they have their ideas when to go, but they don't get to go until Zelensky turns them loose. The lesson to be learned is trying to hold on to everything. Now, I think in some ways Russia has been trying to hold on to its all the things that it's taken, but Ukraine has learned the lesson that it's okay to let go and fall back to a strategic, better position, wear out the troops that Russia's throwing at them, and then they counterattack and they take everything back. So Ukraine's done an incredible job of taking and holding, and then letting go, and then coming back and taking and holding again. They've been masterful at that. Russia has just been played and played and played. But, this is also waiting, holding on, waiting for the right moment for that offensive to begin. Lesson to be learned, strength. You go when you go. You go when you know you've got the strength of numbers, the strength of technology, you've got air superiority, you've got the intel that you need. You go when you're ready to go. I don't know when it's going to happen, but when it does, it's going to go well. And then underneath it all is the moon card. There's the fog of war. You don't always know. You're never going to know everything that's going on, but you have to know enough to take a calculated risk on that. Okay. So that's the current situation in Ukraine. Once the counteroffensive begins, how will that look? How will that pan out? Mix these cards back in here. Give it some shuffles. And we'll find out. Some of the TikTok places that I watch on updates from Ukraine. One, Malcontent News hasn't really posted much up recently. Maybe it's because they've got a subscription base, so they don't put up the free stuff. Another one was called Left, or Left of Center. And those were fantastic. They had diagrams of what was going on and a clear explanation of what was going on. But the author of that channel basically said that TikTok was messing with their stuff. So they were going to go find another platform. That bums me out because I actually liked watching those videos a lot. Because you get a lot of technical assessments of what's going on the ground that you don't get anywhere else. Okay. Once this assault begins by Ukraine, what's the result? Does it go nowhere? Does it go everywhere? It's the spring. There we go. Okay. Deal with the devil. Oh, dear me. I think what this is telling me is that when it starts, it's going to be a slaughter. And I don't think of this as Russia baiting the Ukrainians in and slaughtering them. I think it's going to be the other way around. These are the people that chain themselves to the devil himself. And the generals or whatnot that chain themselves to Putin and his regime are about to find out the hard way that this is going to basically be the undoing of Russia and the government in victory. Yeah, okay. Again, this is not going to be a Russian victory. This is going to be a Ukrainian victory. This is a Ukrainian victory. They are going... Basically, I think this is going to end the war. This will be... This offensive, this counteroffensive that they're going to do, this is going to be the thing that ends the war. And will be the undoing of Putin. And you'll start hearing Swan Lake being played on Russian TV. In the past, you have the Ace of Cups. I think there's a strong... Again, the Ukrainians know what they're fighting for. They're fighting for the very survival of their country. So they're passionate. They're fanatical. They're going to go at this 100%, 110% passion. The Russian soldiers, they're conscripts or they're mercenaries. And they've been thrown in there or purchased to go in there and take over this country. And they've been suffering outrageous losses. And they don't have enough modern equipment to fight with. They're just getting slaughtered out there. The Russians are, and I think the morale of the Russians is lousy, whereas the morale with the Ukrainians is high. That's a huge factor right there. Then you throw in all the Western equipment and updated equipment that the Ukrainians are going to have. The Russians are going to be on their heels. They won't be able to flee fast enough. The current situation is the Page of Swords. I think there's probably spies or there's spying going on, just trying to get whatever intel they need. Wait, this is once the offensive begins. Okay, this is the intel. This is the intel that they've got on Russian positions, depots and things like that. I think the Ukrainians have enough information on Russian troops, troop strengths, and their logistics that they've really got the upper hand in this situation. Overarching energy is the Four of Coins. Russia's trying to hold on to whatever territory they can, and you can think of Crimea. And if they sue for peace, they're going to want to try and keep Crimea. But in some ways also, though, once this begins, Russia is going to try and hold on for dear life just to hold on to their country and their dignity. Because it's just not going to go well for Russia. It's not going to go well at all for Russia on this one. again, I see the Ukrainians trying to take everything back. And this one comes up again. The lesson to be learned is sometimes you're a hostage, but once you get yourself free of that, you're not a victim. You're going to be the victor on this one. So they had to wait. They had to bide their time. They had to gather up all the resources that they needed. But once they got those resources, they're fine. And now Russia's going to be the one who's going to be suing for peace. And they're going to be the one paying the ransom for everything that they've done. And then the truth will be exposed. And then we're going to start finding out more and more. I think, again, once as this offensive goes through, the Russians are going to keep falling back and falling back and falling back and asking for peace. And I don't know what it's going to take for the Ukrainians to stop. I don't know if they're going to do it until Russia's out of their country or if something sooner happens than that. But expect that'll probably be revealed. Underneath it all is justice. They were invaded. They did nothing wrong. And they're taking their country back. And then there's going to be the reparations that come after that to help rebuild their country. So the question was going to be that Ron Brock asked is how are things going to be in Ukraine? When are they going to start their counteroffensive? Will they get everything back? They will, once they start their counteroffensive, once the timing's right, it's going to be a crushing victory. And I think the Russians are going to retreat and then try and sue for peace. And I think getting Crimea back will be part of the negotiations. They may not have to fight for it. It just might be part of the negotiations. But we'll see on that. All right. Thank you for watching this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and leave comments and do all the YouTube-y things. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.